How's it going, guys? It's your boy Mike from Seattle, but right now I'm coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada at the One Rental at a Time event. I'm here with Matthew Parrot, who had the audacity to approach me, the king of Gary, Indiana, and say, hold on there, big dog. South Bend, Indiana is where the real cash flow is. So I'm going to let him make his point, and then I'm going to eviscerate him live in front of you guys. So Matt, you got 5 minutes, man. Convince him.
South Bend is the better place. I think we could sum it up like this. Gary is full of D properties and South Bend has a lot of C properties. There we go.
If that's the only thing you have is that you've got C's and we've got D's,
No, actually, if you're gonna invest and you feel like you might have missed the appreciation play, honestly, Gary might be a good idea. I'll give you that.
Okay.
Because there's still a lot of money. But right now, today, we are under contract on a house in South Bend, and I would say it's a C neighborhood, and we are buying it for $57,000, and the rent is currently $700. She's a Section 8 tenant, and I'm very confident we're going to get her rent up real close to $1,100. So I am still in South Bend buying almost 2% deals in 2024.
A couple questions about it. Is it a 2-bed or 3-bed?
It's a 2-bedroom.
Okay. So the numbers that he's given you are almost identical to what I see in Gary. Now, the difference is, as he mentioned, the neighborhoods are better. Gary has 13,000 abandoned buildings. It's just empty structure after empty structure when you drive through that city. What's it like in South Bend when you drive around?
Well, and that's a really great question because a lot of people may know who Mayor Pete is. Mayor Pete came out of South Bend.
Pete Buttigieg, right?
Pete Buttigieg, and he actually had a thing where they tore down 100 houses in 100 days.
Wow.
So we actually do not have quite the dilapidation issues that you have. That being said, it looks a little bit more like Detroit, where we just have a lot of vacant lots.
Right.
And so you get people coming in and new to the town, and they're like, hey, we're going to buy lots. And
you know what? At least when it comes to it, though, vacant lots I prefer over nasty houses any day.
Yeah,
it looks like there's a park on every single city block and around every house, but at least it's pretty.
And nobody's moving into your vacant lot.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So I think what people are very interested in hearing, because I went with Gary at a distance, but you live in South Bend, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And we'll pick up now right where we started off, right before you started recording, which to me, I really strongly believe that you need to figure out 3 things before you invest in real estate. First one is, what are your goals? Second one is, what are your strengths? And third one is, what are your weaknesses? And when you take those 3 things, that's going to create your investing strategy. For me personally, my goal was passive cash flow. I'm lucky that I live in the Midwest from that standpoint, because South Bend is a perfect cash flow market.
Right.
Even a lot of these national rankings and stuff, and on Bigger Pockets, you'll hear people talking about Indianapolis and Kansas City and South Bend. South Bend's getting a little bit more recognition now. But so my goals lined up not only with my goals, but my city matched that. And so that's going to be an important thing. But because I'm in the market, there was no reason for us to go anywhere else.
Right.
Now, if I lived in California and my goal was passive cash flow, I'd have to think about going out of market like what you've done. But for us, there is no reason to do it. And so I'm very much just our backyard. We invest in one county and one county only.
And just tell everybody, what's your portfolio look like? When did you start investing? How many units do you have?
Okay, so I say that I had 2 investing lives. I bought my first property back in 2004, and I would have been 26 at the time. I got up to about 14 doors, and I sold everything in 2008. And it wasn't so much because of the crash, but it was because I was bad at property management. And around the same time, I turned in my house into a rental, and we moved out of the area. And so that was kind of like my first house on my second real estate life. In 2017, I had 4 doors. And in 2021, I actually left my job and went to work in a property management company, which was a really big transformative time for me to work in the industry. And from there, I watched Brandon Turner's stack method. I went from 12 doors to 34 doors in about 15 months.
Wow.
Right now,
good job.
Thank you. And by the way, that was never making $50,000 in my life.
Okay.
I'm the only breadwinner in my family, so my wife stays at home with the children and she homeschools. And so we did that, never making more than $50,000.
Wow.
And so now my current portfolio is 37 by myself. And then last year, I had the first person I ever bought real estate from back in 2004 approached me and said, "Hey, would you like to be partners? Would you like to do real estate together?" And we talked about what that would look like. And then last year together, we bought 60 doors.
Okay.
And then,
wow.
yep. And then this year in January, we started a third LLC where it's the three of us, my partner and then another guy. And at the end of February, we'll own 15 doors.
Okay.
And then while I was in the property management company, I had a partner and we still own 10 doors together.
Wow.
So that's about 85 with partners and about 37 with myself. And that's what I say is in my second real estate life. So it's
Right.
from 2017 to today is about 7 years. And I went from 4 to ownership interest in about 100 some doors.
Wow.
In that amount of time.
So that's phenomenal portfolio growth. And the reason that I have him come here and brag to all of you guys is because I want you to understand that it's important to get your information from credible sources. Even though I'm building extra credibility into his completely wrong opinion about South Bend being better than Scary Gary, I want you guys to know who you're talking to or who you're listening from. Now, on the topic of Gary versus South Bend and why you should pick one or the other, I've talked a lot about how rough Gary is, how it's neighborhood by neighborhood, and you can't just trust what you see online. And he's already told us there's not the abandoned buildings. But when it comes to selecting certain areas of South Bend to invest in, how do you determine where you want to buy, or is the whole city decent?
No, definitely not. Actually, this is partially how I found Zuber, is I learned how to create a buy box, and then I heard him talking about it, and I was like, holy cow, this is awesome. And so I narrowed down my buy box to about 5 zip codes in South Bend out of like, let's say 8 or 9. Not all those zip codes that I don't invest in are not bad. They have pockets of bad, but I'm like, if you can become much more specific, it's going to allow you to grow as an investor a lot faster. And so when I was at the beginning, I would sort all the houses by price, lowest price, right? Mm-hmm. And I would never fail to find an amazing deal, $35,000 that was right in the middle of the hood.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't want that house.
Right.
And so basically my buy box has adjusted. You know, there's several reasons for that, but I only invest in certain areas. Now in my partnership, we do invest in all zip codes, but we still don't invest in all areas. And here's an example of this. We have an area in South Bend they call the Triangle. And it starts around the 1,000 block and it goes up. And I have a house on the 1,600 block. And this is an area that I wouldn't want, but it was my first house the second time around. And that house normally wouldn't work. But on the 1,700 block of that same house, the houses go from being like $65,000 to $70,000 to $150,000, $200,000 houses, literally 5 doors down.
Right.
And so we do have some block by block bases like what you're talking about. And we are definitely not interested in the war areas.
The war zones.
Yeah.
The reason that people want to invest in Gary typically is because they're looking for the place that's going to make their money work the best. They want really good cash flow. And with high interest rates and high purchase prices, the only way to get good cash flow is to find a very cheap property, maybe pay cash or get a loan that still cash flows properly. That's why people like Gary. But that's actually also why people like all of Indiana, because most of Indiana has really great cash flow. In fact, Tom Olson was telling me one time that Indiana, 6 years in a row, is the #1 cash flowing state in the country. Go ahead.
Which, by the way, Tom Olson might be the real king of Gary.
He is. And the only reason that I get to claim that title is because he has yet to comment on one of my videos and say, what are you talking about, Mike? I'm the king of Gary.
Yeah.
So Tom Olson's flipped 2,000 properties in Gary, Indiana. He is gonna have to fight me for the title though.
Yeah.
But let's get back. So if someone was looking at investing in Indiana, I think you can make a very compelling case about why they should invest in South Bend versus Gary. But why South Bend versus Indianapolis? What do you have over them?
Well, actually, we might not have anything. I would tell you South Bend's probably a quarter of the size of Indianapolis. So you have super big dogs that play there, and we don't have to compete with those guys. So we are not big dogs, but like we are buying on volume more than a lot of people in South Bend. And so I like not having to compete with Indianapolis. But really it comes down to, we live in a good cash flow market. Why would we go anywhere else? So.
Well, Matthew, I really appreciate you sharing this information. I still like investing in Gary. For me personally, because I've already spent the time building the team, building the network, building the systems and the processes, and that takes time. I don't have an immediate need to move to a different market because I can still find really, really good deals. But for somebody out there who's just getting started and is going to have to do the work to build that team and network in any city they choose to invest in, I can understand why it would be a good idea to go to South Bend. For the people out there who want to get a hold of you because they might want your advice and your opinion, how can they contact you?
You can reach me on Facebook. My Facebook is just Matthew.Parrot at the end of Facebook.com. You could meet me in my Facebook group. I've got a Facebook group, South Bend, Michiana REI, where we have about 4,000 people that are specifically invested or not just investors, but also contractors and stuff for just the South Bend area. That's it. So those are the best two places to reach me. But let me ask you one question before we go. And then also make a statement about Gary. I think every city is going to have their pluses and minuses. And I don't know if people know this about cash flow cities. Cash flow cities are so cheap. They actually make it hard to get loans. Have you found that?
Yeah, a lot of people struggle to get a mortgage that's small enough to afford houses.
Yeah.
For a while, it was you couldn't get a mortgage under 100K or 75K. I had a provider that would go all the way down to 25, and that's the lowest I've heard.
That's unheard of. I've never found that yet.
Very rare.
It's hard enough for me to find people that do 50K loans. And it's crazy because some of the houses may not even appreciate for 75K. One of the perfect examples is I have a house. I'm all in at 50 and it rents for $1,400 a month.
Wow.
And I can't find a lender for it.
Wow. So he wants to cash out refi, but he just can't make it happen.
But I can't make it happen. So, and then let me make my comment about Gary real quick. And that's what I would say is, I think when you do cash flow, everybody eventually learns that cash flow is not the ultimate solution that everybody thinks it is, right? So essentially cash flow is going to allow you to own the asset long term. And if you spend enough of those properties, now you can, keep a little bit of the money, but really long term, you're going to have so much in CapEx, you're going to have so much in turnover and all this other things that you're not going to really get wealthy on CapEx. Here's where Gary might be better than South Bend still, okay? Because you can still buy the houses so cheap that you might get those 20 or 40,000. I think during COVID, everybody was scared. And in South Bend, I was buying houses for 20K during COVID. I was putting 15, 20,000 in them. Right. And they, so I'm all in at 40 or 50 and they're appraising for 80. They're not doing that in South Bend anymore. Right. They're all worth 100,000 now. So if you're going to invest in Gary, I would argue it's probably not a cash flow play. It's probably going to be an equity play.
For Gary, so you can get the cash flow and you can get the equity, but the numbers don't go as high. So you can buy something really cheap. You can using the numbers you just used. You can use the all in at 40 or 50 and get up to 80 or 90, but then it's going to stop at 80 or 90. Yeah. It's not going to go higher than that. Whereas your properties went from 80 or 90 to then what they're at now, 120, 130, 140.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like a lot of 130s, but we had a COVID event that happened that took it there. Right. And Gary probably didn't get, Gary might have gone from like the 30s to 40s to 80s. Very small. The next COVID event, that's when you will make, you could literally become an equity bazillionaire.
I would love to see it happen. I would love to see it happen. Right. But to your point on cash flow, I think that has been a problem nationwide. Cash flow is getting crushed because of high prices, high interest rates. And so you said
taxes, insurance.
Yeah, and property taxes and insurance going. I mean, that's if you can get insurance right now. It's a pain in the ass. When he said that cash flow isn't the ultimate play, I will agree that you certainly build much more wealth with equity than you do with the cash flow. But cash flow helps you operate the business, and you have to go from being the new guy, operating it long enough so that you can get the wealth side.
And I am strictly a buy and hold guy. Right, me too. So I don't want to mislead anybody, but what I'm saying is when I left my job and I thought that cash flow was the thing, cash flow allows you to do the thing that's going to allow you to make the equity captures. Right? Agreed. So,
well, guys, I will make sure that I put Matthew's Facebook down in the comments below and down in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure that you send him a message if you're interested for whatever reason in investing in some places shady as South Bend instead of Scary Gary. We'll catch you guys later.